Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Lynk and Co 01. This car is going to cost you 46,000 euros. You can also do a monthly subscription, just like your YouTube Premium subscription, where it's going to cost you 600 euros monthly. For that, you get your insurance, you also get your service, so everything is included. Lynk and Co was founded in 2016 by the Geely Holding Group, which also owns Volvo. So this car is supposed to be sitting between Geely and also Volvo. And Geely, I've never seen a car in that in person because they don't exist in Germany, so I can't really say anything about that. But what you have in here is more of a brand-focused company. Lynk and Co, they only have clubs. They don't have dealerships or anything like that where you can pick up the car. So you go to a club and then you can have some coffee in there, whatever you want. And then really far in the back you see, okay, they're a car company. I didn't know that. Because when we went to Berlin, we walked in there, we were trying to pick up the car. And then I was like, okay, where's the car? And then you walk through the dealer, or not the dealership, the club, and then you see the car at the very back. I don't know if that's the correct focus for a car company, but let's actually check it out because it is a China car. So there's a couple of things I like and a couple of things I don't like. So let's actually check it out. So the car that we have here is a plug-in hybrid. Lynk and Co also intended to bring out a full hybrid version when it first was released in Germany in 2021. But they only stick to the plug-in hybrid, and that's what we have right here, which is the more expensive version of the, well, what it theoretically would have came out. So 46,000 euros, like I said, or 600 euros monthly. In here we have a plug-in hybrid, which is a 1.5 liter three-cylinder engine, which produces 180 horsepower. And then the electric motor, which is going to produce another 81 horsepower. So in total you have 281 horsepower, and those are all new PS, so German horsepower, I'd say. And a total of 425 Newton meters of torque. That's going to get you from 0 to 100 in 7.9 seconds and also a Vmax of 220 kilometers an hour. Let's actually see how fast we can get that from 0 to 100. Very slow off the start in my opinion. We didn't have any wheel spin. We did already have some wheel spin at, well, first try. 7.71 though, that is a fairly good speed, which is on a slope of negative 0.3%, so not that much of a slope. But 7.71, that's actually the fastest we've been able to get so far. Let's do it one more time on the upslope of 0.1% and see how well we can get it. Take a closer look at this now, or listen to it. The transmission in this, it is just so horrendous. Let's quickly take a look at it. And the upshift, it just takes so long. It feels like there's couple of milliseconds lost in this transmission, especially when you're going into from third, or what is that, second to third. It just feels super slow. We did a 7.93 on the upslope of 0.2%, so you're definitely going to be able to get around that range. So 7.9 is definitely doable. 7.71, as we said, is the fastest we've been able to achieve. But that transmission is just really bad, as it takes so long to change into the gears and really doesn't give you any amount of sporty feel to it. Let's start off with the design in the front. We have the lights on top of the hood, which I'm not the biggest fan of. It reminds me of a pre-facelift Kia Sportage, so the 2021 version, where they also had, or 2020 version, not 2021, where they had that on top, on also a little bit of a Nissan Juke. Not the biggest fan of it. And then down here we have a little bit of a grille, and then further down license plate, and just in general looks fairly decent. We also have some air intakes that are actually real on the side, so you get some lower CV value. LED lights on the top, and also on the bottom we have our high beams, which are also LED, and they also move just like in a Volvo, so when you turn they're going to move with you. Let's move on a little bit further to the side, where we can see we have 20-inch alloy wheels, and those have like this blue color on here. You actually only have two color versions that you can get on this. Both are going to cost the exact same because they don't cost anything, which is blue and black. And you get the blue touches in both of the variants. So all of these blue touches that you also see up here are always going to be on that. Further on the side, we do have a roofing capacity of 75 kilograms. You could get an accessory on there, so you can have some vertical layers on there, so you can mount some other stuff on there. We also have electrical folding side mirrors, and in general I do really like the color. It looks fairly nice. I'd rather have this than the black, I think, because the blue actually looks fairly decent. We also have tinted out rear windows, and we have keyless go in the front and the back. For the keyless go, you do also have a car sharing app on here, so you can car share the car, or like I said, you can rent it for like 10 hours or an hour even. And the app from Lynk and Co only has a 1.8 stars, which is really bad. But all the reviews say car is great, but the app just has a lot of bugs. That's why it has only 1.8 stars. But you can actually unlock it with your phone. So you can rent the car out for an hour, and then you can go up to it and then unlock it with your phone. So I don't know how good that is going to work and how safe that is, but The fuel capacity in here is 42 liters. You can only open the tank via a button beside the steering wheel, which is not the best because I really just like going up to it and just pressing on it. That's unfortunate. WLTP claims 1.2 liters, but that's obviously jablable. Let's actually see how much we have for the plug-in hybrid as well. You can also only open the charging port via the button on the side, so you have to hold it down and then it's going to open. There you go. Again, it doesn't close automatically, you have to close it. But in here we have a battery of 17.6 with a total net usage of 14.1 kilowatts an hour. And the thing about it, it charges really slow. 3.7 kilowatts an hour, kilowatts, which is not great. So you're gonna be almost taking 5 hours to fully charge it, which is not the best thing, but you're gonna get a claimed range of 69 kilometers. So for city driving, that's gonna be fairly decent. I can't freaking close this thing. The other way around, and then you close it up again. It has some magnets in there, but that's how you do it. So 69 kilometers claimed range, which actually is doable, and you can definitely drive around with that. So the fuel usage as claimed is WLTP 1.2 liters. Obviously that is jablable, just like I said. What we have been able to reach, if we look at the digital cockpit in here, we can see our fuel usage over the last total mile, or total 5,610 kilometers, which is 7.3 liters. That's on average. One thing that you can definitely notice in this car is as soon as you lose the battery, so your battery runs out of battery, your fuel usage is going to go up exponentially. If you want to charge the battery, you also have the option in the infotainment display to charge the battery. You're going to be looking at 14 liters of fuel usage, which is insane. You have a 3-cylinder engine in here, so a fuel usage of 14 liters is fairly absurd for that. And like I said, if you don't have the battery on there, you're probably going to be looking at a range. Let's quickly look at this. This is with a little bit of electric motor of around 8.4 liters, but that also includes a little bit of recharge. So you're probably looking at around 7.2 liters, something around there. That's what the average fuel consumption in this car is going to be. But the real range that you can actually get out of the electric motor is definitely at the range of around 69 kilometers. You can definitely get that if you're driving a lot of inner city. You can definitely be able to reach that, which is nice if you're just looking to go from work and home. You also don't have any recuperation pedals on here, so you can't change the amount of recuperation that you want. You could theoretically go into the B mode, but that's about it. You can't really change the recuperation, which is not that nice. One pedal drive, really, you can't really get that. The back of the Lynk and Co is also like two different designers worked on the back and also the front. It just looks completely different. You don't expect this back when you look at the front, but in here again we have LED lights going up all the way through with these lots of different like lights in there, which looks pretty cool. We also have the Lynk and Co logo on here. I like the Lynk and Co logo. It looks fairly luxurious. We also have a little bit of a spoiler up top, and we'd also have a tinted out window in the back. And in general, it looks fairly decent. You can definitely see it's supposed to be an SUV. Also have two fairly big exhausts on the back. They don't produce much sound, but they exist. We also have one extra that you can get. The only extra is a 1,010 euro extra, which is the towing hitch, which is going to be able to tow 1.8 tons, which is a good amount for a plug-in hybrid. You wouldn't expect that all the time. And the car only weighs 1,880, so you can basically tow another Lynk and Co behind it. In the back, we also have an electric trunk gate, so you can open that by just pressing on it, and it's actually going to hit you in the head. It doesn't stop. And in here you can see we have a fairly good amount of space for a plug-in hybrid. We don't have a big lip in here, which is nice. In normal plug-in hybrids, or in most plug-in hybrids, you can have a fairly big lip in here because of the battery. In here you have 466 liters of storage space. If you flip over the seats, 1,213, which is good. And then in here we also have this mat in here, which I really like, so it doesn't scratch the floor, and it's just like this good mat that you have in here. You can also see, if you flip this over, you have a little bit of storage space for your charging cables, which I've not folded up nicely. But yeah, fairly good storage space in here, and obviously you can close it up again just by pressing on the button. And let's actually check out the design in the interior. You can definitely see that there is a fairly decent Volvo touch in here. You, for instance, have the steering wheel, which in my opinion looks a lot like a Volvo, with the touch controls on here, which are fairly good to use, but sometimes they are a little bit hard to use, but it's just really rarely you have a fairly decent control over those. You also have a digital cockpit, and again, everything in here is standard. You cannot choose anything extra, so everything that you see in here is standard. So you get a panoramic window, which is standard with it. You can open that until midway, which is a very nice panoramic window. You also get memory function. You get some pretty comfortable seats over a long time. I don't know, they feel a little bit, it's a mix. They're good and also not that comfortable over a long time. You also don't have any adjustable headrests, so you just have one static, which is very hard in my opinion. And also the seating position was, first of all, a little bit hard to get into, because it takes a little bit until you find the correct position. You also, if you are a fairly tall person, you can hit your foot, or your knee, not your foot, that would be insane, against the dashboard, which is, well, if you sit a little bit close, you're always going to go up against it. Even for me, 1.80 meters tall, it's always going to go up against it, which is not the nicest thing. But in general, the quality here is actually very nice. You have a good amount of leather everywhere, and then some good plastic up here, which looks a little bit like styrofoam, but that actually is fairly good quality. You also have the infinity speakers in here, which are also not bad. And in general, just some nice stitching here with the blue and the light blue, which looks good. You also have, you have wheels for your climate control, which is very nice with some ambient lighting behind it, which I like because it's not integrated into the infotainment display, with a couple of buttons down here. Our 7-speed automatic gearbox, parking brake, auto hold, and drive mode, and just 2 cup holders in here as well as some storage space in here, where you also have a USB and a USB-C as a 12-volt and a 12-volt charging port. You have a fairly decent amount of storage space in your glove box, which is also cool to open because you have to press this button. Took me a while to actually realize where that button is. And in general, electric seats for the driver and also for your passenger. No, not for your passenger, that's not. But in general, quality is good. Not really much you can complain about. But one thing I can complain about is the infotainment display. So let's actually check that out. Because in here we have our speech control, which is, let's test it out. Hey Frank.
I'm listening.
Tell me a joke.
Sorry, this function is not supported for now.
Hey Frank, navigate me to Frankfurt with the Hauptbahnhof.
Do you want to go to Frankfurt, Hessen, Deutschland?
Navigate me to the main train station in Frankfurt.
Do you want to go to Bahnhof Fritzlar?
I mean,
you could also say first or second one.
He is definitely not the most intelligent person when it comes to speech control, because he doesn't recognize a lot. Like I said, train station, I don't know, he said front right, I don't know how he got that. And also his voice is just very, very irritating in my opinion, it just doesn't sound that nice. If you're using it for navigation, let's actually check that out. He just gets annoying after a time, and I usually turn him off, and then I miss my exit because I'm just stupid and I have to follow his guide, and then I turn him back on, and then I get annoyed again, and then I get annoyed again from him, turn him back off, miss my exit, and I'm just driving in a circle. But the infotainment display and navigation system in here is obviously not as fast as if you use Google supported maps, for instance, like that. But in general, it works fine. There's a couple of roads that are not integrated in here yet, so it is not the newest software, but it's still it's still decent. You also have a 3D view of that, and it just does what it has to do. You also in here have a couple other different modes. For instance, you have a journey camera, which you can see. You can do some selfies in there, which is like, oh, hi. And you can also do the outside, so you can film something in the front. You can only do that while the car is stationary. Fairly decent quality, so you can do some selfies in there, stuff like that. You also have the car sharing option, like I said. The collab option, which basically allows you can say something, record it, and then it's going to send it to Lynk and Co. And they have, like, it's the next innovation or something like that. And it's going to send it to Lynk and Co. and somebody's going to listen to it. Oh, maybe that's a good idea, but I don't know how cool that is. You have what's it called? Storyteller, which is kind of like the game options on here, or games, but all it really is you have 2 people or 4 people, however many you have in here, and then you got to think of a secret within the category of sports team, and the other one's got to guess it somehow. We've tried that out, it's just a little bit boring. You have Apple CarPlay, so wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, also some wireless charging capabilities, but in general, infotainment system is a little bit lackluster in my opinion, but it works, but it's not the greatest. With the extended wheelbase of the Lynk & Co 01, you have a lot of legroom, you can see right here. We have plenty of space. The seat is adjusted to my liking, so 1.80 meters. And also you can stretch them out fairly decent. You obviously can't flip them over like in the Kia EV6, for instance, where you can flip your seat a little bit back. But in general, just a lot of room, which I like. Also, headroom is very good with the sunroof in here. There's some extra space, so if you're a little bit taller, again, great amount of roof in there if you have the space in there if you have the sunroof open, which is very nice. And again, just feels so spacious with the sunroof. I'm always a big fan of a sunroof because it just looks amazing. Quality in here is also, again, just like in the front, very good. You don't have much plastic, only in the front, which you you rarely touch, and also on the bottom with the infinity speaker once again. And then the seats in here, they're a little bit hard on my liking. Like the back support, it's really hard, just like a board in my opinion. And the head support, obviously, just like in the front, really, really tough. Also, a little bit of storage space in here, so not that much. You also have a climate control in the middle, which is not independent from the front, and charging in the bottom for USB-C and USB or USB. The middle seat also has this like weird cushion in the back, which is not bad, but it just looks a little bit interesting. We also have a center console where you have 2 cup holders in here, but you don't have any space in the front. You also can't flip over the middle console. I don't know why some SUVs don't have this included straight away, because it, in my opinion, it probably isn't that big of a cost, and it just makes it so much easier to live with if you're trying to like go on a ski trip or anything, especially in Europe, because most European people that have a little bit of money actually go skiing. And that is a thing that is a must in my opinion. ISOFIX points in here are also easy to reach, remind me of, for instance, Audi. So you just flip over the thing in there, and that's basically it. So everything obviously is standard within Lynk & Co, and with standard you actually get a good amount of assistant features. So the car actually has quite a lot of them. For instance, you have lane assist, you have autobahn assist, you have adaptive cruise control. What do they call it? Highway assist, that's what they call it. So if you have traffic jam or something like that, you can just turn that on. It's going to obviously automatically go to the person in front of you, which is very, very comforting. You have blind spot mirroring, which is also very nice, or blind spot assistance, which is nice. Lane assist, like I said, and in general, a lot of safety features which are fairly easy to use. You also have 360 degrees camera, which is nice, and you also have a fairly good visibility. The front hood is a little bit bigger, but the side is fairly decent. But then if you look at the back, you don't have a great surrounding view due to the fact that you actually have a fairly big C-pillar. I don't know if you can see that very nicely, but we'll put a close-up of that. We have a big C-pillar, and your rear seats, you also can't fold over the headrest for that. So it is kind of, well, irritating when you look out the back, because it is fairly small and you can't really see much out of that. But obviously with the 360-degree camera and also a lot of assistant feature, you're not going to be feeling much of a pain with that rear view. Let's actually quickly take a look at the 360-degree camera. As you can see, one thing that is a little bit irritating, we'll talk about that in a second here, but if we look at it, we have some good picture quality right there, and you can see actually a fairly high quality camera, which works fairly good. It is very sensitive, so if you just go through here normally, you're going to flip around the car fully, so you have to go very, very slow. Other than that, quality is fairly good. You also get the well, you get shown where you're going to be going. But one thing that is not the nicest is with your gear selector, you can't hold it down to go into drive. You have to pull it back twice, so if you want to go into reverse twice, back twice, which is a little bit unfortunate. And while reversing out of here, one thing that is also not nice about the car is that we have a very high turning radius of 12.1 meters, which for this car is very, very high. So if you're driving in city, it's not going to be the most comfortable, because that turning radius is just going to not allow you to be very maneuverable. But you do also have a couple other functions, for instance auto hold, which I always love to see, because auto hold just makes it very, very easy to drive in city and very comfortable. Another thing that is very nice in this car is the digital cockpit, because it is fairly simplistic, just like in any other Volvo as well. You don't have many layout versions, or you just have one, but on the side you can theoretically change some stuff. For instance, your phone, you can have your trip, and you can also have your media, so you can skip through the navigation and your energy flow, and on the side you just have your navigation and also your buttons for your adaptive cruise control, which is fairly easy to use, and the button layout is fairly nice. I like it. And one thing you will notice fairly quickly when driving in this car is, well, first of all, the suspension. You're expecting a fairly good suspension because it's an SUV, but you can hear, we went over that bump, that was a fairly big bump, but the suspension is not great for an SUV. It is fairly hard, and you definitely expect a smoother ride, but you don't get this. If you compare it, for instance, to a GLC, the GLC definitely feels way more luxurious and SUV-like. Obviously, it's a Mercedes, and it's going to cost you around 10,000 euros extra. But the ride quality in here is not the greatest. It's going to be fairly hard and just not smooth over the bumps. Another thing that you will notice right away is that the steering adjustment in here, or the steering sensitive, is not very sensitive and just very unprecise. When you're going into corners, you just don't feel like you have full control over the car. You obviously do have control over the car, but it just doesn't feel very precise, and just feels a little bit like laggy. It takes a little bit for the input to actually work, and it's not that direct, and it's comfortable to drive, but if you're trying to go a little bit sportier, it just doesn't feel that great. It's just like a laggy kind of steering feel, which is really not great. If you want to go a little bit sporty, you can obviously adjust it over into the power mode, which is gonna give you the most power. The car does have a fairly good engine of 261 horsepower, which is good for the car, only weighing at around, well, not only, but 1.88 tons, is a fairly heavy car. But 261 horsepower for this price range is actually very decent, and you do actually get a little bit of a sporty feeling, but there is a couple of things which really make the sporty feeling lackluster. Because, first of all, the gearing ratio in this car is horrendous. The transmission in this is just very lackluster, and it just feels like there is so much space lost between them, like milliseconds or almost like a half a second when you're trying to shift up, and transmission just does not feel great at all. One of the worst I've ever driven, in my opinion. And the other one is that the turning, well, obviously the turning radius of this car is not the greatest, and you also don't have the greatest amount of lean in the corners. And the other thing is that turning into the corners, you can hear it starts screeching straight away. It really, okay, well, I wasn't fast enough around that corner, but it just doesn't feel that great, and it just doesn't give you that much fun. You drive, well, SUVs generally don't have that much fun experience when you're driving them fast, but with this indirect steering feel and this really horrendous transmission, I gotta say, it just does not feel great, and it doesn't produce any amount of fun. And also, you have 261 horsepower, but you really don't feel like you're getting all of it because of that transmission lag. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great. So in conclusion, if you're looking for a car which is a plug-in hybrid, you can do some car sharing with it, you can even get it with a monthly subscription, then this car is a fairly good one. It's going to be cheap, 46,000 euros. You get a lot of standard features in there. And you even get a pretty powerful engine of 261 horsepower with a very decent amount of range that you have in there as well. However, if you're looking for a more sportier car, then this is definitely not it, because it doesn't really do anything sporty, and that transmission really is not going to get you anywhere. However, like I said, you have a lot of assistant features, you have a lot of great comfort and things in there, and just in general, it's a very good car for the price that you're getting here. So hopefully you did enjoy this video. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day, and bye-bye.